And moving on to Max versus Gaethje, we talked about how we were gonna touch on this fight breaking a little bit earlier, and there's a lot of kind of directions we can go with this. What it means for 145, what it means for 155. Does Max Holloway stay at 145? Does he? Is this a permanent move to 155? I have a lot of questions, but let's start with your guys' initial reaction to the fight being added to UFC 100. Is this a matchup you're glad to see? Are you happy that the BMF title is back on the line? So, just what are your thoughts when you initially saw this fight get booked? Anthony, we can start with you.
I'll give you a quick. I mean, the initial reaction was awesome. You know, like who's
Mhm.
not like I don't know who genuinely would like turn that fight down. Um, I think big Max fan. I love seeing him in the octagon, and obviously Gaethje's about as entertaining as it gets in the octagon. So I think they really, the UFC just used two of their, like get out of jail free cards where they could slap them on against any matchup, any fight, anywhere on the card, and people. That's going to be one of the fights people want to watch. And they just used two of their fighters that have that, that's that power, that star power.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like this fight on paper. I'm curious to see how Max does going back up to lightweight. Gaethje's not exactly the easiest guy to fight against by any means, but it's going to be those leg kicks and that kind of style that we see from Gaethje against the boxing of Max. James, you asked if this is permanent. I think this could be a permanent move just because what does Max have left at 130 or 145?
Mm-hmm.
He's already done enough to probably get another title shot at Volkanovski, but that's never going to come. I don't think the UFC wants it. I don't necessarily think the fans want another fight between the two of them. So I think moving up is really the only decision, and we'll see how it goes. Maybe he surprises people and beats Gaethje. Then that gives you something easy of, okay, let's throw him in against Islam or against Poirier, Oliveira, Armin, depending on what happens in that fight, sort of thing. And whereas, what is he just going to be in the featherweight division, be the gatekeeper to a title shot the rest of his career, never getting one himself?
Yeah. Um, as far as 145 goes, I agree this should probably be a permanent move to 55. Add some weight. He's already a pretty big 145 or add a tad bit of muscle, but like he's simply running out of matchups at 145. There are obviously he didn't fight everybody, but he fought Arnold Allen, he fought Yair, he fought Ortega. You know, there's a reason he got booked against Korean Zombie. There's a reason he got booked against Korean Zombie. What happens if Cater beats Aljamain? Then that takes Aljamain out of, that would be a fresh face, but he already fought Cater.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you're kind of resigned to like Josh Emmett and like if I'm Max Holloway, I'm not jumping up and down to fight Josh Emmett. What does that do to your legacy? And you take the risk of eating one of his big shots. Like that doesn't really help you in any fashion. Mazhar Evelev, why would I want to prepare for him for 5 rounds when that doesn't really move the needle on my legacy? Going up to 155, on the other hand, if you get paired with a great grappler at 155, like it's going to be a tougher matchup, but that does a little bit more for your legacy if you can go up and start taking out difficult stylistical matchups in a different division. So I think from a legacy standpoint, it helps him a lot more at 55. I will say the only way I think he goes back down to 145 is if you have Ila Topuria kind of cement himself as that champion. Say he beats Volk and maybe beats him in a rematch, and now Max is going, well, I can get a title shot without fighting Volk because that's the reason I wasn't getting the title fight is because I already fought him 3 times. So I wouldn't be surprised if that takes him down to 145. But that would kind of be my thought process on Max. And then one thing I want to add on the lightweight division is you now have Max and Gaethje, Charles and Armin, and Poirier and Saint Denis all fighting very close to each other. Good luck trying to figure out who fights for the title next, because you're gonna have 3 of those guys who win. Good luck figuring out who's fighting Islam. It's not gonna be easy.
Oh yeah, that's going to be very, very difficult. I think the only outlier would be if Poirier beats Saint Denis. I think he's the least likely to get a title shot of those four or
Mhm.
five guys. But Saint Denis comes in and wins. It's easy to make him a fight against the loser of Oliveira Armin, maybe. But even then, this division's a mess, and this is why it's fun at times. In the lightweight division, it's been historically one of the bigger, more exciting divisions because you go 6 guys deep, and then Saint Denis not even in the top 10 yet, so that's another guy to throw in there. I think as far as Max goes, sure, him beating Justin Gaethje would be perfect for him to go and warrant a title shot potentially. But there's also a fight that if he was to lose and wants to still stay up there, why not give him the winner of Michael Chandler and Conor McGregor next? Because neither of them are going to get a title shot. I guess McGregor is McGregor, so who knows if he comes out and wins quickly. But Holloway McGregor again would be fun.
The pure McGregor fashion, like beats Chandler quick, and then has a decent little fight with Holloway, and then gets his title shot, and then gets a chance. But I was gonna say, yeah, I agree. I think my one thing of why Holloway would stay was Topuria. I think if he's already cleared out half the division, or most of the division actually, Holloway that is, to where if Topuria gets that belt, I mean, there's not many people in that weight class that I would want to fight for it over Holloway, because I think that he could still maybe get that belt back. But this fight, which I think is super fun, and I'm there for it. I just thought it was kind of weird for Gaethje because I thought he was getting older, and maybe had one more chance at the belt. He just needed to pick the right, correct fights, which I guess he still can. But going out of division, or not, I guess technically him not going out of division, but not fighting, like you said, one of the people that possibly could overtake you, depending on who the UFC chooses to fight Islam next. I just thought was a little weird, or a little strange, I should say. But I mean, there's not an issue with him winning this fight and still getting the Islam fight, or at least this being a with Poirier and Oliveira, this being a title eliminator to where he maybe gets someone else after a win, and then it'll be for.
Mm-hmm. And all these what ifs brought a lot into my mind. The one thing I will say about Topuria and Max back going back down to 145 makes sense for Max if you're getting a title fight against Topuria. You're fighting for the belt, but it makes sense from the UFC's perspective. If Topuria takes out Volk, and then you give him Max and he takes out Max, all of a sudden you just have a guy who took out 2 legends in Spain, which is a brand new market. Like, the potential of Topuria to become a massive star in Spain, and like globally, if he takes out 2 of like the most highly respected fighters of this generation. So I think it would also make sense from the UFC's perspective to book that fight. And then as far as Gaethje taking the Max fight goes, I assume, I don't want to, this is his money, obviously, but he's probably getting pay-per-view points for defending the BMF belt. I assume they got them for, I know Gaethje said he was getting them for the fight against Poirier for the belt. So I assume he's getting them to defend it. And now you're getting pay-per-view points on UFC 300. So I think that is probably why Gaethje took this fight. That would be my guess, honestly. Obviously, he didn't say that he was getting pay-per-view points. You don't know how many pay-per-views 300 is going to sell. But I think this is a financial gamble where no matter what happens, you are fighting Max Holloway for the BMF belt and probably getting a pretty hefty check. So I think that may have played a role in him taking this fight. And then if Max wins, and if Conor wins, I think they do Max and Conor for the BMF belt. They've talked about that before plenty of times when Max was at 145. And I think the UFC would salivate having Conor as that BMF champion, because that means you pretty much get to dictate exactly who Conor can fight. You know what I mean? Like, there's no like, we should have Conor fight this guy for the sake of parity. And there's no, he needs to stay in this division. It would be the ultimate, Conor can now do whatever he wants if he's the BMF champion. So if he beats Chandler, I think some way, shape, or form, that's what they're going to kind of be the angle they're going with for Conor, is Conor BMF, because the possibilities are endless.
Yeah.
I agree. That's a great point.
Absolute fun division. Pure chaos.
Lightweight is a positive mess and positive chaos.
Yeah, exactly.
You've got the light heavyweight division, which at times is like, what is going on type of mess. Lightweight division, at least it's a fun mess. So
too many options.
Yeah, too many options.